guess what? It's me. We're off, as they say. Okay, now, before I get into this video, which the title is, I might add, I'm going to use the word twin flames, otherwise nobody will watch it. Twin flames, why am I so tired and feeling physically exhausted also? Now, before I get into this video, I wanted to make mention a couple of people expressed a concern in a couple of our videos that I've done in the past. They made mention about me deleting a lot of my old videos. I did. Unfortunately, I completely deleted them right off of my YouTube channel, and I think I've done about 50 or 60 of them up to now. And I also forgot to mention that I only deleted them off of the YouTube channel. I actually have them all in my computer, everyone going back for the last several years, in fact. So at any time that I feel like it, I can simply load them up again on YouTube. And perhaps I'm considering the idea of doing a kind of a I can't think of the word of what you call it, where you put the old material, an archive channel up where you put up some of the old videos, and some people go in and take a look and see how much they've grown or they haven't grown. Okay, now back to the video. And recently I've been hearing a lot of people stating that they've been feeling tired. They're having unusual symptoms and palpitations of the heart. They've already gone through a heart center awakening, and they've experienced all of these things. And it's a combination of actually feeling discomfort on one side of the body, or one side on the other side of the body. And this will may be a little bit repetitive in some ways, but we'll give it a gain, and hopefully it will help some people. One of the things that I've noticed with a great many people as of late is when they're feeling tired, and this may come as quite a shock to you. We've reached a point now of sensitivity where if we're doing things we don't like, that we're not comfortable with, or intuitively know that we shouldn't be doing, or if we're hanging around with people we shouldn't be hanging around with, or we're eating foods, taking in information that we shouldn't be doing or taking in. All of those types of things are now becoming very obnoxious, if I can use that word, to the people involved, you especially, and your body is reacting to it by literally, in some cases, saying, well, if you're not going to listen to what I'm trying to show you, if you're not going to move or change or do or evolve, we're going to go into a shutdown mode, and that's exactly what's happening. So a great many of you who are experiencing some of these symptoms, besides being concerned that you might be going through some kind of an ascension or some kind of experience in that way, you might want to take a look at activities that you are being involved with. And if you're feeling exhausted, tired, and downright bored, it's probably time to change the scenery or change the people you're associating with. Now, the other thing, sip of coffee first, that we wanted to mention to you is in regards to the activation of the Meridian system in the physical body, which you've probably heard me mention a few times in the past, and I've done a video on it. But that awakening of the Meridian system now, and just for somebody who may not be aware, the Meridian system I'm talking about is not the Chinese Meridian system in the body. It is the Meridian system that is reactivating within the etheric body or the duplicate body of your physical body. That's where it's activating. And as it's activating, it is causing a lot of these symptoms. Now, specifically at this point in time, we have a situation where a great many people, having had a heart center awakening, gone through the symptoms, and have moved to a point where They are no longer being dominated by the emotional body uh, in their physical existence. Their aspect of, shall I say, love, relationship, and sexuality has changed and evolved, where it's no longer expressing from the solar plexus or the emotional body. Then they're starting to make a transition to the spiritual or the heart center orientation of expressing love, relationship, and sexuality. And I'm seeing it more and more all over the place, but people don't seem to be seeing it. I'm sure they will in given time, but right at the moment, they're not seeing it. So what's happening is that they're experiencing the feeling of tiredness. They're experiencing physical heart activity, palpitations again. They're feeling discomfort on either side of the rib cage. And what is happening is the heart center is going into its last stage of evolution for now. For now, I want to emphasize that point. Most important that I do here, because a lot of people don't seem to understand that the evolutionary process is quite different at many different stages. So, having said that, what's taking place is the meridians, the two on the sides of the chest, the rib cage, excuse me, are beginning to open. As they open, what is happening is the individual in question is being given access to what many of them will call new energies, but in fact are not new energies. They are simply energies that they have not had access to because they didn't have the means, or the chakras, the meridians, to be able to access those types of energies. These are now coming in, and they cannot come into an individual until that individual has reached a certain point in their own, what's the word we would use here? Spiritual maturity, if I can put it that way. And once they've arrived at the spiritual maturity, what happens is they then can access a new means of consciousness or expressing themselves where they are now in communication with higher self. Higher self, for lack of a better expression, has descended now into a more integrated state with the individual in question. And the individual in question also might be experiencing a lot of, how am I going to say this? A lot of situations where they would be talking or doing something and they don't remember consciously having said that or doing that, and they've lost awareness at a conscious level because higher self, which is in truth them, has come in and actually taken over the situation, for lack of a better way of putting it, and they're expressing in that way. So once you get to this point, and the tiredness that many people are experiencing also, besides what I previously mentioned in regards to doing things you're not happy with, what is also happening is the body physical is going through an incredible period of adjustment at this particular point. And in order for all of these integrations, changes, modifications, awakening, and the spinning into higher vibration and the opening of the meridian systems are coming into play, the body needs to go into what I'm going to call simply like a bloody comatose state for a period of time so that the individual can go through the modifications. So when it's all happened, the tiredness will disappear, and actually what will happen is a person will feel more alive, more vitality, more physical stamina, more everything, as they're now moving into becoming supercharged. And I want to explain that also. When we give the information, we're trying to present it to you in a way that you can grasp it without getting into complicated formulas of expression and explaining it. So as some of you have heard of what are called the avatar heart, I believe I've mentioned it, we've mentioned it, and also it's called the diamond heart, the emerald heart, the heart womb. In some cases, there are half a dozen different names for it. And what happens is this is now is what is taking place. Many people have given the label or the title, but very few have given an explanation of how it works and how it functions. So when these two meridians on the sides of the ribs open, as I mentioned, the new energy can begin to flow in. Now, because these two meridians are located specifically on the sides of the rib cage, they are directly related to the upper part of the physical body, not the lower. There are two more on the hips, which are specifically oriented toward taking in what you are going to call new energies for the lower part of the body, and this is to assist the transition from the emotional experience of life, love, sexuality, and all its presentation to the higher vibrations as it's transpired or transmoved or whatever word you want to use, up in a stream of energy and up into the heart center chakra, which is now expanding into what I and others call the avatar heart. So when this happens, now again, it depends upon the individual as to how long the symptoms of the physical tiredness or the discomfort or the heart palpitations or the feeling they're having a heart attack are going to manifest. If there's any doubt in your mind, one should always go and see their physician. Always, you should do that. I mean to say to you, what would physicians do if they didn't have the ultimate control over all of the physical bodies on the planet? Think of the loss of income to the medical profession and doctors as a whole. It would be a crushing blow to their lifestyles. Don't you know? Moving on, when the individual in question, now the tiredness experience can last, depending upon an individual, you would have to take a look at your own overall spiritual development. Go back and take a look at what many of you call the dark night of the soul. Actually, the dark night of the soul is just a label that you've given for a transition of consciousness from who you were to another state of consciousness. And because it was very negative, because you had a lot of stuff that needed to be manifested, cleaned out, and brought out of you, you called it the dark night of soul. I, however, would call it the enlightening state of the soul who is becoming. Sounds a little more cheery than the dark night of the soul. Would you agree? All right. So, having the tiredness feeling can last in some people, as I mentioned, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, and it has to do with your soul group that you came into. Now, I wanted to talk about this for a moment, because I don't want to make these videos too long any longer, because I know some of you get rather bored listening to me, so I'm making them shorter. I'm kidding. So what happens is depending upon the soul group and the hereditary and genetics that are transposed into you will dictate how long the tiredness is going to last. Many people, many people in their spiritual awakening have greater degrees of difficulty than others do. And the ones that have the most intense, flamboyant, the most explosive experiences are usually the real blockheads. They have to do everything the hard way. They're the kind of people you have to hit them on the back of the head with a 2x4 to get their attention. I happen to be just like that. I have to see the light, I have to see this, and I have to see that, and I have to experience. I'm one of those guys that I didn't believe there was a white light until one hit me in the head and passed through my body. And I don't believe in anything until I see it, feel it, taste it, touch it, or it becomes real to me. So therefore, I have to have very intense experiences in my spiritual awakening. And there are many people that are like that. Others who are already very insensitive, intuitive as their natural state will have a much easier time of it, so there's transition. So when you're having these symptoms begin to experience to yourself, you can't really take what another person says into consideration at all. Because by definition, the other person's experience is his or hers alone. Yours is unique totally unto yourself and will express in that form and fashion at every opportunity. So keep that in mind whenever you're experiencing something. And remember, when people are going through the spiritual awakening, many have a lot of opinions as to what they think and feel is going on and how they should express it to other individuals. Really, in reality, no one has the right to give an opinion about any other person's spiritual journey, unless by definition they can walk the same pathway that they do. If you can find another soul or souls that are walking in the same direction as you are, then you're perfectly comfortable in giving and expressing opinions back and forth to each other, because you can actually, in fact, gain something from it in that particular perspective. Otherwise than that, it becomes nothing more than useless dribble that is being expressed and has of no use at all. So now, I hope I've clarified for you the actual aspect here of the tiredness, the meridians that are beginning to express and open themselves. And now I want to just make mention here briefly for a moment or two about the energies now coming in. The energies now coming in are energies you've not had access to before because you were at a lower vibration. Once you made that transition to the heart center existence, as it were, what happens is you have access to these new energies, as you would call them. What happens then? Excuse me. The situation is most of you already at this point have, shall we say, spiritual abilities or gifts, as some of you like to call them. What will happen is after the tiredness disappears, the body becomes more functional. You will find a terrific enhancement of any previous abilities that you had that were latent to you. In other words, if you're going to be, if you were a good clairvoyant, now you're going to be a dandy clairvoyant. If you were a very good medium, you're going to be a better medium. Now, when I talk about being a medium, I'm not talking about someone who talks about to dead people. I'm talking about a medium in the sense of being able to communicate with people that are still in the living, by definition. You would call it telepathy, if I can put it that way. But I'm talking about communicating in the way of being a medium in the proper way, which is a medium is able to communicate with people at the physical level, but is able to communicate with different aspects of themselves, by definition, and to communicate with those aspects of self and being of assistance to those aspects of self, and actually manifesting for them healing, balancing, and cleansing in many different ways. What's the word I'm looking for here? The medium of the future will be able to do something that has not been done on your planet, if I could use that expression, for a while. And that is, you have a lot of wounded individuals in your society. A lot of this comes from what you might call sexual abuse, physical abuse, wars, fighting, people coming from dysfunctional parts of society, the low end of society, as some of you like to call it in your reality. And what happens is these mediums will be unique in the sense that they will be able to communicate with these particular types of individuals. And although it may not be pleasant work and not for everyone, this will be for individuals who can communicate with the lower vibratory aspects of these individuals in question and assist them by raising their vibration, by definition, to a higher vibration so that they can achieve the ascension process, as some people like to call it in your reality. So what happens is these mediums are going to be unique and very popular and much in demand. Now, at this particular point in time, no one has even mentioned in any of the YouTube groups, or shall we say the old great gurus in the YouTube world by definition, or spoken about these new mediums that will be manifest. So therefore, I'm giving it first. Please remember the source that it came from. It's important. When new information is coming through without being in a bragging sense of the word, information will be presented through those who have balance and acquired and achieved balance and who know. They do not need the assistance of ascended masters, guides, teachers, or angels to present them with information. They are simply accessing direct connect to source information and presenting it. The mediums of the future are already here, and as their abilities are being exemplified, the process that is going on within the Heart Center at this moment is the process that will be elevating them to do this. Each one of them will be specifically guided to a particular culture, a particular race, or a particular area of the world. They will not need to move there physically in that sense. They will only need to make the connection because of their genetic and hereditary traits. What I mean by that fact, I realized there once, I'm off on a bit of a tangent here, but this is important information and I want to get it through here. These individuals will be actually stay in their own location, and they will be able to, as Melvin likes to call it, we're cross-pollinating here between Melvin and, well, you know who. Anyway, to put it to you this way, these mediums will be able to make that transition. They will be able to step away from their physical state of consciousness, transition based on previous experience in a soul group, culture, race, or religious indoctrination to a particular part of the world. You would call it astral traveling. I would call it something else in that definition, but we'll use it that way. Now, this is just a, shall we say, a smidgen of some of the new information that's going to be presented, and I shall be delighted to be presenting a great deal of it in that scenario in the future. But again, to go back to what is happening, all of this is now happening to the individuals, and eventually it will happen to everyone. But at this particular point, it's happening to a few. Now, I'm not talking millions. I'm talking perhaps a few hundred at best who have achieved and are going through this at this particular point in time. They, in turn, will actually help others coming along behind them. What is being asked of those who have arrived at a certain vibration is, and we do realize in the spiritual world and in spiritual groups in your reality, there are those who are, well, of the belief that we don't need teachers, we don't need assistants, we don't need facilitators, we don't need anything but themselves. We are totally in agreement with that philosophy, but you're about 200 years away from actually arriving at it. So therefore, you will need teachers, you will need assistants, you will need facilitators, you will need leaders, if I can put it in all those terms that most of you all understand at some particular perspective, for an extended period of time. So therefore, you are being given that application or that methodology, if you want to put it that way, within your embodiments at this particular moment to achieve that. And this is what is taking place with this particular video, with the tiredness and some of this that's going on. Some of you are going to be very much surprised as to what you see coming in a few weeks. I hope this has been helpful to you. We have enjoyed this, and I'm sure that some of you will enjoy it also. Transition and change is a beautiful thing when you see it. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.